Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Super Paranormal Chronicles. I'm your host, Lee. I'm the good-looking one, but not as good-looking as my guest today. I have with me Chris Whitehouse. Chris is a YouTuber, and his YouTube website, or whatever, is called Whitehouse Investigates, or Investigations. And he was a self-confessed skeptic, but he is no longer. Chris, welcome. Thank you for coming, my friend.
My pleasure, Lee. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and I've got another Brit on the podcast, so there will be subtitles and translations along the bottom after.
Oh yes, I should speak clearly, shouldn't I?
yes. Speak the King's English, Chris. We got together because we have a mutual friend with Tommy Cullen. Tommy got me in contact with you because I saw and heard you on his podcast, and some of the stuff that you told Tommy, I just thought that I had to get you on. So before we start, let's go back to the very beginning, Chris. How did you first experience something paranormal?
Oh, well, I was a child, single digits. I think to myself around 6 years old. We lived in a shop above a house. No, a bakery. So the bakery was ours and we all lived upstairs. And one night, like any other, I was sort of eyes closed in bed, and then I felt the covers of my bed get whipped up and like flicked. It's like when you're too hot, like you would pick it up and do that draft. I felt the draft go all the way down to my feet. So I instantly thought one of my brothers, of which I had two, had come in and, was doing it. So I looked to say, stop it. And then there was like a large black shape in the shape of a gingerbread man. Do they have them in America?
We do,
yeah. So sort of weirdly stood with its arms out to the side, very thick as well, weirdly thick. But mind you, I was little as well. It's all about perspective, isn't it? But seemingly hovering at the end of my bed because its legs were stood sort of apart as well. And I shouted for my mum and dad, and nothing really came out. Banged on the wall. It didn't really reverberate, and so instead I ducked under my covers and stayed there until morning when the light was up. Checked if it was light, and that stayed with me to the point that I've only recently stopped holding the covers down at night. Told my family what I'd seen, and didn't get any belief from any of them. But that moment got, I was like, that was an experience, and as scary as that house was, and there were many things about that house that I was scared of, it propelled me to be fascinated by it. So as soon as I'd see a ghost in the ghost book in the primary school library, I desperately wanted it, which then opened me up to, there's all sorts of ghosts, and you're not the only one, and I'm just fascinated from a terribly young age. In fact, I was at my first school when I started my first ghost gang by telling ghost stories to two other boys in the playground, and we all had like one story each. And I said, right, we're going to start a ghost gang. So our first and only investigation was the school toilets, where we walked in and I was saying, is anybody there? Give us a sign. And the other two left a bit creeped out. So I think I gave it a couple more, is there anybody there? And then left thinking, well, that answers that. It's not haunted. That was my first very early investigation. And then it was 20 odd, nearly 20 years or whatever later that I started a team.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's a few points that, I love it how, and I've had this quite a lot recently, how people have experienced something when they're young, and they always put their head under the sheets. Like, this sheet is the ultimate protection.
Yes,
nothing can get past this sheet.
Yeah,
and it's like when you see pictures of like cats or dogs or elephants even hiding behind a telegraph pole.
Yeah.
You can't see them, or sorry, they can't see you, so you can't see them. And I think that's what that concept is. But I know that we said at the beginning that you were a self-confessed skeptic, and not so much. I was a skeptic for the longest time. And I didn't have anything of what I remember have it happen to me as a child. but something happened later on in life. But it's weird how you get a bunch of people that have things happen to them when they were young compared to people that don't. We've got the comparison here right now. So at what point did you said that you were reading the book and you got the ghost gang. When did you kind of realize that there was something different in this world and you wanted to investigate it further?
Well, that's an experience I had as a child, I just mentioned. So I see a ghost, I'm asking around, and I would absorb any TV program. We're talking 10 years later now. I'm about, 15, 16. And things on the TV were always very look down your nose at anyone who was saying they'd seen a spirit. It was like they were probably wrong, they were probably tired, but you never know. You know what I mean? It was always that. The angle was people might say they've seen the Loch Ness Monster or they say they've seen a Yeti or whatever, but you know what these people are like up in the woods. They go a bit crazy. It was like very demeaning sort of thing. So I suppose I was raised on the attitude of ghosts are fantastic as stories, but let's be honest, they probably didn't see what they thought. So yeah, I think that's when I sort of was like, yeah, I was a kid. I was a child, and it's very easy to see things in shadows, think there's something under your bed. So I convinced myself that as fun as it is, it's probably not real. And then you get into it and you real, idiomotor effect or, there's faces, pareidolia, seeing faces in clouds and trees. And then, so yeah, I became skeptic and then wanted to start a team when I'd see the ghost programs with orbs, lights, all these things that they see that we don't see on camera. It was a black shadow and it moved, and it's just like, yeah, but we've all sort of woken up and been scared of a figure in our room and it's as coat hanging on the back of the door. So my attitude was, I really need to settle this debate. It's no good me assessing what somebody else has seen. I need to be seeing things and then debunking them. So that was when I actually, in my 20s, started a team of my own to say, and this is what there was mistaken about. This is the peripheral vision that's always in your peripheral vision. Well, let's find out why that can't be trusted. The brain can't be trusted. So yeah, I had all these ideas of how I was going to either disprove it or be changed by something. And it ended up being I was changed by things.
Yeah, because I was from the UK as well, and when I was a lot younger, I used to buy the magazine Arthur C. Clarke Unexplained, and it used to have ghosts, and it would have cryptids and UFOs. And I've told people before, I was absolutely convinced that I would encounter spontaneous human combustion on a daily basis because it was in this book, in this magazine, pictures of people being burnt and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a thing that I'm going to deal with in life on a daily. But it wasn't. Bermuda Triangle is another thing. Why are people not disappearing and stuff like that anymore? And it's really odd how when you were younger, and we both remember like the Most Haunted TV show. That was probably a lot of people's first experience of ghost hunting. Yeah, but now it's a $1 million business now. Yeah, there's so many places and so much equipment that you can buy, and it's ridiculous how it's blown up to how it was when we were kids.
Yes, but the water is so muddied now. I think it's too late to prove the paranormal. I don't think it's possible. You can have the best evidence and someone just has to say it's AI and you're done. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I can't convince you. I watch our own evidence, be it table tipping or Ouija board, and even I, watching it back in as I'm editing, I'm like, it just looks fake. Thank God I was there. You know what I mean? So I think it's too late. I think we just have to enjoy it or not. because the people do fake it as well, and there's a lot of money in. Well, I don't know. People say there's a lot of money in it, but I have stories, and yet I know for a fact that's not going to convince anyone. And even if it did, even if everyone 100% believed me, I don't see where you would get money from it.
Yeah,
You know?
One thing that we do as a team, if you say that you're experiencing things at your house, we will first off we'll send you a questionnaire of loads of different questions, and it also includes are you taking regular drugs? Are you taking recreational drugs? Do you drink? Do you have any mental health issues? And so we kind of get a breakdown of what we're looking at from the get-go. But then when we turn up, before we even look at the paranormal, I will be checking for high ranges of EMF. I'll be checking for black mold. I'll be checking for other kinds of radiation. I'll be checking for carbon monoxide. And we literally break down everything that is normal before we look at the paranormal. And I think that's kind of the right way to go, rather than just go in there with all your bells and whistles and go, oh, there's a ghost, and there's a ghost, and there's a ghost.
Yes.
Because your credibility is just going to be shot through the roof.
I think it's really important to go in with a disproving mind and throw evidence out. If you're not sure, it's gone. Throw it out. Because most of the time it's nothing. It's a rare case to get all the conditions just right that a spirit shows himself. Because I thought, if I asked long enough, why doesn't a spirit just appear in front of me? If I'm talking to something on a Ouija board, I'm like, well, can you just not just appear? Why can't? What? It's frustrating. Why isn't that the case?
And I'm kind of in a lucky position, because if I get any evidence, whether it be on video or audio, I've got a couple of different people in different parts of the country that I can send this evidence to. And if I've got an EVP, one of my close buddies, he will actually break it down for me, and he'll go, even down to voice waves. He'll go, this is your voice wave. This is my voice wave. This is me banging on a table. And this is what you heard. And he will break it down into that much detail that you go, okay, it's not me. It's not a normal noise, but we don't know what it is. But we won't come out and say, oh, this is paranormal. We will just go, we cannot explain what this is. But and that unexplained pile keeps getting bigger and bigger, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the evidence you get on any night, would be, well, that could have just been a coincidence that knocked in, the building ticked in the moment we were asking out. And let's be honest, we asked out all night. So it's not far away from me asking for a noise that the house can make a knock naturally, expansion, contraction. And then I'm like, oh, that was a ghost replying, so it's difficult. It's difficult to actually find what evidence is real. And so, on the other hand, though, all these coincidences pile up to be such a pile of coincidences that starts to be a problem. If you've written off 100 pieces of evidence as coincidence, it's like, now you're just being blind. Coincidences don't happen that often.
Yeah. So I want to put something out there. I want to give you a scenario that I experienced a year last November.
Yeah.
So we were going to a local jail. A friend of mine was doing a public event. Right. He did not like going to death row because it freaked him out, as he put it. And he's a big guy, huge, like twice my size.
Yeah.
So he says, can you come and give me a hand? So I've got someone to talk to. So I took the wife with me. And this prison is closed now. And it's got a courtyard, and they've got a simulation of the gallows, because I think 5 people were hung there. So the wife says to me, I want to have my picture taken on the gallows. And the gallows are in the corner of the courtyard. There was a marquee in one end for public events and stuff. And me and this guy were sat on like a concrete walkway for the wheelchair access into the room. So as she's coming back down the steps of the gallows, my buddy Elliot says the last 3 people to be hung were buried in this courtyard. Do you want to have a guess where? And as my wife hit the grass, she went, "Oh yeah, that's easy. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here." So I'm looking at my buddy Elliot. Elliot's looking at me. He went, "What the hell have you married?" I was like, "What? How that? What?" And she went, "It got really cold, then it warmed up, then it went cold again, then it warmed up, and then it went cold again." And it's like, how can we explain that? Go. As a previous skeptic, give me your wisdom.
Do we know it was right? You've not said, and that was correct yet.
Well, he actually said afterwards that she said it, that she was correct in all 3 locations.
Right, okay. So the 2 options there are either we're saying that she has a psychic sense and the way that it tells that there's a ghost nearby is that she gets called, or are we saying that a spirit... Well, the spirits aren't going to just sit in those graves, are they?
No, they're not, you're right.
So I think we can probably rule out that a ghost is giving off, a cold spot. Because why would they be sat on the graves like obedient puppies?
Just like,
so really, that's more down to your wife's picking up the way that her body tells. If that's what we're saying, a sixth sense, something we don't understand, but feeling and your body, I think that's one of the best pieces of equipment that we have to go on. So intuition, we don't understand these sort of things. So yeah, how do you explain that part? Well, you can't, because all you're saying is that she's really good at guessing, which is a coincidence. Well, we'll put that down to coincidence, and you're like, okay. But if your wife does that every 10th, I don't know, every so often, knows things she shouldn't know, coincidences kind of get brushed out of the way.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's a great data point that we'll put to one side and say that's interesting, and then we'll try and get her to walk around and find things again. Yeah, and we're never, even if we have all these data points, we're never going to actually fundamentally going to be able to say she's got this power, because we don't know what that power is. But exactly. Yeah, is there any other stories where she's known things like that before?
Well, funnily, no, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, and we hadn't really spoken about it. But then she's also saying that when she was walking around that same location, she felt like she was getting a trouser leg pulled.
Right.
Like a child tugging on it.
Yeah.
But also at that same location, because we wanted to investigate that prison, and we did go back a few months later. And I went into one small room, and it was relatively dark, so I'd got my camera, and I was basically doing a walkthrough with this guy so that I could go back to our guys and go, this is the layout. And I was in this small room, and all of a sudden, I got what felt like somebody stroked the side of my face.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a skeptic mind, so my immediate thoughts were spider, cobweb,
yes,
whatever. But then you can rule that out straight away, because the room was in the process of being redecorated. There was decorators' boards, blankets, and cans of paint on the floor. They'd been in that day, and the strong smell of paint was in the air. So unless it's a spider that's on speed, that's actually run up the wall and created a cobweb within like an hour, I think we could rule that out. It was deep into the prison, so it wasn't going to be a draft from a door or window or anything. So again, another unexplained experience in the same location.
You use the term stroke. Now, to me, a stroke is something that starts in one spot and goes to another. Do you stick with the word stroke, or were you thinking?
It was literally from the top of my face down to my chin.
Yeah, you can't even say that's a muscle spasm, can you? No. Because I've been touched. I get tapped on the head, and people will say, "Oh, you might have just had a twinge." I've not had a twinge when I'm not on an investigation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's
like
good.
I say,
Good.
There are plenty of things that we cannot explain.
Yeah.
But after listening to the episode with you and Tommy, one thing that I do want to talk about, because I found it absolutely fascinating, is your Ouija board encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you mentioned your guide Sam. So if you can go back in time a little bit and tell us how you first encountered Sam, and then we can move forward with this part of the conversation.
Okay. So I've done, with my team, we'd used Ouija boards first and foremost for a decade, and met certain spirits in like my workplace that were repeatable. They would show up, you knew they were there. So it was no surprise to go to my work and meet Luke and David every now and again. It's just these common names, which is how I thought it would play out. If you go back to a same environment, location, I think you should meet the same people, and then some new ones coming through. Family members of people who were there, whatever. And you get good nights, you get bad nights. But then the time we met Sam Durst was in York, and you had to book the location for 2 nights. They took that much money. You couldn't do it for 1 night. Fair enough. And because I was with my son on day 1, the ladies of my team went ahead of me and went for the first night. And I get a message from them saying, it's all kicking off, Chris. We've met these spirits and there's a bad thing here. Apparently, she's warned us that you don't like women. I don't want to specify because in case I start making things up. But that was the vibe. There's something here. Met a lovely woman who's getting bullied, and you wouldn't believe what's happened. Knocks, bangs. We were terrified. We couldn't sleep properly after our sessions. We went out and walked. Once we tried to go to bed and were too frightened and started walking the streets of York. So they were shattered. Can't wait for you to come, Chris. So Saturday afternoon, I arrived thinking they're just having a great time. They're winding each other up like a girl's sleepover, having fun. But then when I get there, they were really full of stories like they'd gone out for a cig break and there's a little courtyard where you go, and then not long been there and the door just seemed to shut on them and shut them out. And only one of them had the key. Luckily, that one person was still upstairs, and they couldn't get back in. And they were sort of joking, and does this house don't want us in there? So half joking, but it seemed like there was signs all the time that something out of the ordinary, more so than usual, was happening. And I arrive. And the place in the shambles in New York, every sort of house leans. It's so old. The houses lean together, and it's a really popular area in York because it's so old. And I immediately okay, if I put a marble on this floor, it'd roll and hit the wall. And then you go in the lounge, and the TV is on a slant the opposite way to the door, and it's like a hall of mirrors. I'm saying, look, I immediately feel off kilter, like I'm on a ship, because nothing's straight. And so that's my skeptical. Okay, again, this is just what they've been living in for hours. Let's see if I start to have similar things. And I'm like, right, girl, what happened? What actually happened last night? Tell me properly. And they'd met a woman called Ursula, and I think they'd got the number maybe 4, let's say, spirits in that house. Ursula was the main one, and she'd warned us that there was another mysterious one. A candelabra had slid off a table, and instantly I'm like, something moved. We don't really get that. With our hands on it, yeah, we get table tipping, we get Ouija board, but they were like, no one touched it. Candelabra fell off. And there was like all sorts of stuff nailed to the walls like a guitar. And they said that guitar strummed on its own. And I'm like, really? This is also like the thing that you wish for. And after 10 years, I'm like, well, did you get it on camera? No. Oh, right. I know they're not liars, but they could have just been having fun, knocked something that vibrated up the wall and it gave off, you sit instantly thinking, well, it could have been that. Let's get it together. Right, come on, let's start our second investigation. I'm going to open up, get the Ouija board. In fact, we'll start the Ouija board off, and I stepped off, got my Gauss meter out, put it on the stairs, because you go up to this first floor where the lounge kitchen was, then you go up another set of steps to the bedroom. And I put the Gauss meter on the stairs up to this upper floor. And as they're seemingly getting Ursula coming through again, they were saying, oh, this is Chris. This is the nice guy we told you about. He's all right. You can trust him. The Gauss is flaring on the stairs. So I pick it up and I move it down a couple of steps and it starts to do it again, I instantly reach my hand out and say, hi, Ursula, I'm Chris. My hand, and it was a hot July day, so humid. My hand only went really cold, like a breeze on it. And it shocked me. I turned to them, I'm like, that felt weird. My hand went really cold. As if, have I just shook hands with a ghost? I kind of joked. It's just an unusual thing. The Gauss went off as if someone came down the stairs. So I jumped back on the board and it's going on again. There's someone here who doesn't like you, And sure enough, eventually this guy comes through, calls all the teammates whores, and was really abusive, obviously wanting to do them harm. And they're like, oh, normally we just push our way through that. We get a lot of, I'm going to do this to you. Oh, yeah. And then it turns out they're not. It's just having a play around. But this actually kept going. So because Ursula was bullied, we stopped for a minute and we managed to, allegedly, because I'm not a medium or anything, but we seemed to go through a thing where we'd made Ursula go through the light. You've probably done it yourself. Go through the light and Sam can't go follow you. And after that, he was really angry. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to strangle you in your sleep. And I'm like, has she gone, Sam? Yeah, where's she gone? Where's she gone? Well, I don't know. I don't know where she's gone. Well, she's gone somewhere. Where she got collected by somebody she knew, a dad or something. We don't know. We didn't even know, we don't even know how you can do that through, So, yeah, he was our enemy. And so we had to take a break. And the girls were like, we are so tired. There's no way we can stay up all night. But he is saying he's going to strangle us in our sleep. We've had movement in here that we can't explain, things, that we've always asked for and they're happening. He's stronger than every other spirit we've ever met. And we think we're in danger. And you're not staying tonight, you're driving back home. And I'm like, yeah, there's not enough room. You've got all the beds. So it came down to doing the Ouija board, and one of the girls would absolutely jump out of her skin because she thought that she saw like a black mass running along the floor. And I'm like, are they just really hypersensitive? When you get yourself in such an emotional state, you start to amp things up. But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, I've never seen evidence like this before. I'm saying, come on then, Sam, make a noise. And the window 2 or 3 floors up from the road smacks like a hand had slapped it from the outside, and I can see the window 4 foot from me and hear it, and there was nothing there. The fireplace, I asked again, another noise. All detritus falls down on cue into this decorative, what used to be a real chimney fireplace, like something scrabbling around in there. And I'm like, you're right, this place is not like anywhere else. So, yeah, I'm Sam Durst. You're not going to be able to get rid of me. I refuse to go. I'm going to hurt you all. So in the end, we said, do you know what? It's probably best. We're out of our depth. I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this situation. Let's leave for the best of in case we are in danger. So yeah, we left, which made it a very special case, driving home going, why are we doing? This has never happened. And what do we do next? What do you do when you come up? I want a ghost to come up and stand in front of me and slap me around the face. And then it seems like one's going to do it. You're like, oh, now I've got to think, what do I want that? You know. So yeah, we went home and tried to do some learning. And I thought, what's the best, quickest way to learn? Well, we'll go to a cemetery towards, miles away where we live and say, look, any spirit, we've got this weird situation where a spirit, and the first thing that came through in that cemetery was Sam. It's me, Sam, calling everyone whores, doing the secret, the movements and the words that he used were racist about this Ursula. So as soon as we're not going to start spelling out racist things. So it's like it was a bit of a calling card. So we were confident, and I should say that the meters were going off blindingly when we were at York, and now in this graveyard the meters are going off full whack. It's just like his signature move. This is this character again. And so I'm trying my best to keep my calm while everyone else is freaking out. All right, Sam. Hello. Nice to meet you again. Thanks for coming through. This is bizarre. How are you doing this? Try to be respectful. And yeah, don't ever come back to my house. And then he'd go, and there were just the regular cemetery spirits. But then we'd go 2 weeks later to another investigation near us. Okay, maybe it was Spirit 2 this time. All the meters flare. Everyone goes cold. It's Sam. And I've been watching you. And I can tell that other day you were doing this. And that person's like, yes, I was. How the hell do you know that? You were in the kitchen and you dropped a cup. And whatever it was right every time. So we were kind of being harassed for months because COVID hit. And we weren't going to get back to his house for a couple of years. And over those 2 years, he was perpetually on our case. We all were going on the WhatsApp group like something massive has just happened. Like I nearly walked into a person on the landing thinking it was my son in the dark, but then realising my son wasn't there that night. And I said something to Sam that, it might have taken months later where I got to a Ouija board and said, hey, something happened. Can you tell these guys what happened? Oh, yeah, he nearly walked into me. And you said, not effing now or whatever. And I was like, yes. And I was the only person there. And I'm trying to be cynical, So even to this day, when Sam comes through, he makes himself known. We're all look at each other like, he feels like him. And he's saying words that equate to being him. Now, I must also say that we did eventually go back, which was an amazing weekend, because it's 2 nights. And we managed to get him on our side. And now he follows us around in much more of a helpful kind of way, which just shows you push through with any horrible thing. And eventually you might meet the humanity on the other side, which made me appreciate. I've gone into his house telling him, I've got rid of what you think is your spirit, girlfriend or whatever, and now I've threatened to kick you out of your house. Why wouldn't he hate us? He's got every right to. Calls himself king, so he's very arrogant, but he's very strong. So in a way, I'm like, yeah, you are my king. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're everything I've ever asked for.
That is
so.
It's to have something like that, because I don't personally, I don't know what it is, but if someone said to me, do you want to be part of a Ouija board? I'm one of these people. I've got no evidence to back it up, but I'm just going to go, no thanks. I'm just going to step back and I'll be the one that's recording it.
Mm.
And we actually did an experiment where we had 3 people using, and we blindfolded them just to see what would happen. And we posted it on social media, and we put, I can't remember what the title was. And then even without looking at the video, someone said, oh, you're playing with toys now, are you? And we watched the video. And you might be able to tell me better, but because these 3 guys were blindfolded, nothing moved.
Yes.
But was it because they were blindfolded, or was it because there was nothing there to move it? That's the $1 million question.
We've done blindfold Ouija boards a lot, because obviously that would be another way to really Sure. So I'm back off the table. I'm blindfolded my team, but running up to that, I've got it going with them without blindfolds. Okay, there's a spirit here. Move yes or no. Okay, spell cat, spell plate. So I've calibrated the board and the people, then put the blindfolds on. Right now, spell cat and plate, and I've spun the board around. Can't do it, and yet surely you think, well, if the spirit's there, what does it matter whether they're blindfolded or not? But it does actually matter, according to the spirits. I'm only quoting what the spirits say. The spirits say they look through our eyes. And so if you've got 4 people on a Ouija board and only 3 of them are blindfolded, it does work. But when you blindfold everybody, that's what they say. Okay, I have no sort of skin in the game here. I'm only reporting. It doesn't make sense to me, but this is what seems to happen. And also, I had to make peace with the fact that when you put a deck of playing cards on top of the planchette, if the top one moves first, it's us moving it. And if the bottom moves first, then it must be the glass is moving without us, directly moving it. And because the top one always moves, it's us. And I'm saying to the spirits, well, that just means it's us then. And they're saying, yeah, we use you to move to what we want. And I'm like, well, that's really not the answer I want, because I can't go to people and say, yeah, we're moving it, because they're like, yeah, that's why it's fake. You're moving it. And all I can come back with that is the amount of times, which I say the amount of times, but let's say it's maybe 10 times, we had some miraculous information come through that we really didn't know, like lost keys or answers about us personally that we hadn't shared, or it's led us to diaries in abandoned buildings. It's in this room, it's under this, on this bookshelf, it's this colour, and it's a diary. Go find it. And then you're like, well, the house is ramshackle. It could have been 1,000 places to go. And you pull out this book and it's a red diary from the spirit of this particular one I'm talking about, was a farm lady who owned the farm. And it had fallen into disrepute because of finances. Her husband had unfortunately took his own life, like a lot of farmers end up doing. But yeah, this woman just led us around. Oh, there's a blue book in this room and it's our financial records. And it was. And you're like, if it's us pushing it, I don't have a problem with that. If they're looking through us and they're making us push it, but the information that comes through is pertinent and incredible, then we've moved on from it's us moving it. It's like, okay, what does that leave us with? We don't know these things, and now we do. Thanks to something forcing us. That's where I'm at the moment.
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
It's one of those, oh, okay. But that makes perfect sense to say that, they're moving it through our eyes. Because if you've got more than one person on that Ouija board, and we've only just picked who's going to be doing it 5 minutes previous, if you're going to spell out the name, Sam, Chris, or Lee, all 3 of you have got to have come to that decision straight away.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been able to communicate, let's spell a name Sam or Chris, then and then it moves and spells a name, yes, it might look like one of you is moving it. However, where's that information coming from?
Yes. I mean, there's always, people start skeptically saying, well, if you say, is there a spirit there? You've got yes and no on the table. Odds are everyone's thinking it's going to move to yes. No one's really thinking it's going to move to no. So, all your subconscious muscle movements are going to push it to yes. And that skeptically, that does work. But then so many times we've had like D-A, is that going to be Dave? Is it going to be Daniel? Or it'll spell something completely different in the example I'm giving. And we're all like, I never saw that coming. Damien, who, you know what I mean? It catches you out. Or, yeah, information will come through so fast that you've got to watch the video back to go, oh, it said I am not alone. And you were like, I am. And you lose, when it goes on for ages, you lose what's being said. You need that person to write it down off the board, or, or it suddenly, things become relevant later on. It might be like, they might be giving you initials at first. They don't want to give their name. But then those initials, in an hour later, you're like, oh, that's right. You meant Alexander Whitehead, Patricia Whitehead, and Charlie Whitehead. You're giving me the name of all your families, where we're going, AW, PW, doesn't mean anything. It becomes relevant later, and you realise what they were trying to do. Yeah.
So if you say on a spirit board, Ouija board, whatever you want to call it, is there a spirit here, and it goes to no, something has obviously moved it to no.
Yeah.
But do you believe that there may be other entities that could manipulate that to no? Or are you a firm believer in, I know we mentioned it offline about fairies and stuff like that, sort of like, do you believe in that kind of thing as well, or just the spirit realm?
Well, in my experience, when it says no, we just all go, all right, we've got a joker here. It's just a spirit being playful, funny. They can be funny. Some of them have got really good, normal person sense of humour.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't suddenly think it's demonic. Like I've seen a lot of ghost teams when it does what we call spoking, where we'll ask it to move and it'll go to A, B, C, D, and it's like the spokes of a wheel. And a lot of people at public ghost hunts, I've seen them like rip the planchette off the board and go, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. So we used to go in our own investigations. As soon as it started doing that, we'll say, okay, let's see what happens. Nothing. The times that make you ill at ease is when it starts to go 5, 4, 3. You're all looking, 2, 1, and you wait. And then sometimes somebody gets pushed, or somebody, but other times nothing again, and you're like, ooh, that was exciting, but nothing happened.
Slightly anticlimax.
Yeah. But it's always that hope,
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the D word, because when I started really looking into being a paranormal investigator, we have a company that a friend of mine owns that does certain courses. And it's I've been on the courses for like poltergeist and ghosts and hauntings and cryptids, and one of them was an introduction into demonology, and it was interesting to know what the Catholic Church's opinion was on demons. But it's quite amusing how everybody seems to think that if something bad happens, it has to be demonic or it has to be malevolent. But if you're using like devices in this day and age, even a cell phone or whatever, they may be calling you the demon because they don't recognize the technology that you're using. And when people get scratched, they automatically think it's malevolent. Yeah. Whereas I go, well, if there's a spirit that wants to try to communicate with you, it can verbalize, call out, and the chances are you may not hear it. So it may try to shout a bit louder to try to get your attention. If that doesn't work, the next natural thing for a human to do is to reach out and tap that person to get their attention. Now, is it that transference of spiritual energy that's causing the marks and scratches that people think are demonic?
I was with you all the way then. I can't speak on scratches. I've never been scratched. I've never witnessed a scratching. I used to ask for it until the spirit Sam told me off for asking for that sort of thing. He said you shouldn't pull that negativity in. But yeah, we've been to houses where there's a spirit there. It's malevolent. It's it's negative. It turns out to be Grandma so and so. They were like, well, you didn't listen to me when I moved your thing. You didn't listen to me when I called you. And now having to throw things around, and really make you notice. And they were like, oh, right, sorry. Yeah, it's like frustration, like, hello, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to make you say hi? So it's more frustration, of being ignored.
That's it.
Yeah.
And there could be the odd occasion that if that individual passed suddenly, that they may not even know that they're dead. So you're going into their property and it's like, oi, this is my property, get out. Oh, this person's not listening to me.
Yeah.
Shout louder. That's where you get your EVP. Right, I'm going to throw something at you now because you're ignoring me.
Yes.
And that could be the complete story of exactly what's happening.
I've had many investigations where the solution is to compromise with the spirit. Like you say, I know you used to live here, but you need to live side by side with this person. What can we do to honour you? And they might say, leave fresh flowers on this windowsill all the time. Put up a little sign, to commemorate my life. Whatever, put flowers on my grave. We're always trying to mediate, really. You're scaring this family. You either do know them or you don't know them. Or you're just coming to visit the grandkids, fine, but you're scaring the grandkids. Try not to let them see you anymore, So, it's normally a case of, you want to be heard, fine.
Yeah.
And you don't like them putting that there, and the family are like, okay, we won't do that anymore. We were going to build this conservatory over your garden, what you slaved over for most of your life, but now we won't, It's the people, aren't they? They're just people.
Exactly. And one thing that I tend to do on investigations, because you're trying to contact with a spirit that was human, you treat them like a human being. You don't treat them like a performing monkey. And the amount of people that you go to investigations, touch that device. Well, they may not know what that word means. And so I always go, we have toys on the floor. If you want to go up to the red light, please, touch it. I do appreciate that you probably get asked these questions a lot because you get different teams coming in. I apologize if I repeat the same question, but we are just trying to prove that you are still here in your non-physical form, and that's exciting for us. And I try to explain the reasons why we're here, not just like, okay, I'm here, knock 3 times and all that kind of stuff. I'm not into that at all. I try to explain to the people that I'm hopefully talking to why we're here and what we're doing.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like what I do. And they say, look, you're respectful, you're friendly, you come in with good intentions, and we can feel your intentions. So we knew you were coming. As soon as you guys arranged to come, they're like, we've known for 2 weeks you were about to turn up, and we're all queued up waiting to say things. Like eager puppies, people aren't listening to us here. So now when we actually get around a Ouija board, we've got a chance to speak. And and they say, we like the fact that you've come to not antagonise. Come on, strike me down if you can, Yeah. So, I love the way you've said that, because that echoes the way I do it. And it's always worked for me,
And one thing that I find that doing what I've just said does produce results. I've had some really interesting EVPs. I've had something that I think was trying to get my attention because I was walking through a kind of like a dining area at this one location, and I just got a psst, and I literally heard it with my ears. And I've got the body cam, and I'm turning around and thought, like, did someone just psst me? And that's actually one of the evidence that I sent away to my other friend, who's got a video expert who broke it down. Yes, the video wasn't tampered with. The audio wasn't added afterwards. You've got a genuine catch, and people go, well, it might have been a car. Well, okay, how many cars do you know make that sound? Well, it might have been your shoe. Well, I'm sorry, but shoes don't make that sound either. Well, you might have brushed past a chair. Well, if you swish past a chair with your trousers on, you're going to make a swishing sound rather than a psst sound.
Yeah,
and
it's a distinct noise, isn't it?
Exactly. Nobody that I spoke to could explain what it was. So, again, on that unexplained pile.
Yeah, and it takes a second. That's 1 second out of your night. And we, any ghost team, you might do 2 or 3 hours, and you might get a couple of those seconds where you're like, oh, that's incredible. And that's kind of what you're fishing for, isn't it? These little tiny moments. It's not normally a spirit dancing across the ballroom in front of you. It's normally like your name's called, you're touched momentarily, a coldness. Yeah, they're fleeting, and it's enough to bring you back, and you keep going, thinking, what fleeting thing might happen tonight?
Yeah. So, I know you mentioned the shambles earlier, and like we love the shambles, because it's so oldie worldy. Yeah, and it's very popular for tourists. And when we was in the UK a few years ago, we made sure that we went to York and did all that kind of stuff. But is there a location that you went to that you'd never say that you'd ever go back to it?
No, not at all. There's nowhere I've ever been. No, I've not really done all the hot spots that you might think I've done. I don't travel the country. Going to Chillingham Castle and Edinburgh Vaults or whatever. Obviously I'd love to go. I don't know. I've got a life. I've got a life to live, and I don't give it all over to that one thing. So we're very much a local team. We travel to York is like traveling to America for us. It's like it's a big event where we do have to stay over, because the miraculous can happen down the road. In a cemetery, we had a good Ouija board communication, and you're seeing things or your meters are going off. That's everything for us. And it's few and far between. A lot of it's something's moving the glass, but we're just not making any sense of it. Sometimes nothing happens, So you find yourself recounting these same stories of amazing things, but ultimately, 16 years, there's a lot of nothing much to report, and something was there, but, so...
That's it. And I always tell people that we can spend 8 hours in a dark room talking to ourselves. But even when you do get, words coming out, I try to emphasize with people so much that if you hear a word, that word has to be relevant to the investigation. So if you ask, can you tell me what day it is, and it comes out with Saturday, it's relevant. But if you ask them what day it is and they come out with orange, it's not relevant to the investigation. Yes, you've got a word, and that, like you said earlier, that word may connect something later on. But at that moment in time, that word is not relevant to what you're asking. And some people go, oh, yeah, I've got this list of words that came out. But they're just random words that don't make any sense whatsoever. And I thought, you can't prove that these words are from spirits because none of them are relevant.
Yeah. I think it's really important to try and break your own evidence. What I mean by that is to put extra hoops for them to jump through. I'll give you an example. I've got a Ouija board which I made, and it's A, B, C, D to Z. But I've got another one where it's all jumbled up. They're all random. So it takes the people using it a bit of where is the next letter? If they're preempting a word to be stop, they actually have to put some work in finding it. And they're like saying to me, that just made it difficult. I'm like, yeah. So if the evidence comes through, it goes faster than you can find the letters, rules you out, it's better. You know what I mean? I'm putting filters in that the ghosts really have to work hard, but then the evidence just stands up so much more. That SB7 where you scan a spirit box which scans radio waves. If when you hear a voice, quickly click back manually and find if there's a radio station there in the same voice immediately. It's debunked. I know it ruins the fun, but if you don't find something there for long enough, click, 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 click. Well, where's that radio station? Then you've got fantastic evidence because you've tried hard to make it not be evidence,
And and you're absolutely right. And I know we mentioned earlier about there's AI, for example, that we can't trust a lot of the stuff that we see, but the stuff that we post on our social media, there's 3 core members, but then we have another 5 members that come on investigations. We know that evidence is 100% genuine as it was recorded on that particular night. And if someone says it was fake, well, if you think it's fake, that's fine. But we were the ones that were picking up the evidence. We know what was going on at that particular time on that particular evening, and we know what happened is genuine.
Yeah.
So, just because you don't believe it, that's not my problem.
I think it's a complete waste of energy saying it's fake. All we have to say is you misunderstood what happened. I'd be like, yeah, that, of course, yeah. I'm telling you my version of it, how it seemed at the time, but none of us can say how it, the truth, which is like that's my interpretation of what happened at the time,
Yeah.
So yeah, saying it's fake, it's like why would I rehearse this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if somebody can come out with a rational explanation, fantastic.
Yeah,
because it helps us learn as investigators.
Yeah, when my meters go off and then we determine that it's one of our phones not on airplane mode, after 10 minutes of, do it again, having a conversation, then you realise you were talking to a mobile phone. It's like, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I don't want to be an idiot,
No, and we learned the hard way about a REM pod, because a lot of people say, REM pods can be so easily manipulated. You are right, they can, with cell phones, with walkie-talkies. And we were doing one of our very first investigations, and we were using the walkie-talkie, and the REM pod was going off, and I got really excited until the point that we realised it was due to the walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
but it was a learning curve. But then when we played the video back, we actually realised that the REM pod went off once, a few seconds before I got the microphone and keyed it.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have it in my hand. I had it on my belt. So that one, by reviewing the evidence, we actually captured a genuine activation of the REM pod where it wasn't like electronically manipulated.
Yeah, but I would say about meters like that, even though you got seemingly a paranormal blip, you don't, because you can't see the radio waves or the Blu-ray or the Wi-Fi. You don't know what you got. You know it's not the walkie. So these meters, I just learnt this recently, so I'm quite eager to say it again. This guy was like, Gauss meters, K2s, they pick up, whatever, RF signals, And realistically, when they go off, all you know is that some sort of energy has made it go off. Nothing to do with spirit. It's like a walkie's gone off somewhere. Your mobile phone's had a notification. It's like, that's a different way of looking at it. Much more skeptical. Like, they can prove there's something electrical going off, and because we don't really know spirits have electrical energy. It's not, but I'm not ruling it out that they when you have a proper conversation, yes, no, buzz, and it seems intelligent, that's different. But generally, these things capture natural stuff. So all we really know when it's bleeping and flashing is that we've got some natural stuff going on. It's hard to then correlate it with spirit, really.
Yeah, we was at a location over a year ago now, and it was an old building that did not have air conditioning. So it just had a couple of big plug-in fans. And we would do kind of like a 20-minute session, we'd unplug the fans. And then because it was warm, when we were doing, what we're going to do next, we'd put the fans on, so it kept it relatively cool. And we had a REM pod on a mantelpiece, and there was a big fan plugged in by the side of it on the floor. And just by unplugging and plugging in the fan, we realised that it was setting the REM pod off.
Yeah.
And we did it multiple times. And every time we plug, so that surge of energy by plugging in or unplugging the fan was enough to set off the REM pod.
Yeah. I remember we went on a break, flicked the kettle on, and all the meters flared up. And it was like 10 foot away. And we were like, a spirit. And I flicked kettle off again, put it back on. And I was just controlling the meters like, whoa, we've learned something there. It's not spirit, it's like, it's a shame, but yeah.
Yeah. And even something like a cat ball, we have cat balls, but people go, well, if you stamp your feet, the cat ball will go off. So what we do, we have my buddy always tells me off because I can geophone. which is like a vibration device. So we put a cat ball on top of that.
Nice.
So if both of them go off,
yes,
you know damn well that there's been a vibration. But if one goes off and the other one doesn't, then that's something that you have to look into a little bit further. Because if they're both sensitive devices, which a cat ball and the geophone are, how is one going off and not the other?
No, I like that. That's good. That's my sort of things I like. Yes. Yeah.
So let's just go back to the Ouija board for a second. One of my other colleagues, he loves the Ouija board. Like I say, I don't, but that's just personal. So when you are opening and closing, are you doing it by the book like you should do, where you do the circle 3 times, or do you just like launch into it? How do you open and close?
Doing the circle 3 times? Pushing it around, one of those where people push it around by hand?
Yeah, and just like to open it and then you close it and then you go
nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's just ridiculous. Why would that be a thing? There's a spirit stood there going, "What are you doing? Why are you turning around, touching your nose, and all these superstitious? I'm either here or I'm not.
I don't know if you heard that, but a storm
what was it?
That was a bolt of lightning, and like thunder.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we got storms for, like I say, we've had them for a few days. We've got a couple more coming in.
Yeah.
So, do you believe in, when people are talking about Ouija boards, that you can have kind of like different levels of spirits that you can talk to?
You mean you're going towards negative, right?
Yeah. So if you're speaking to, like you say, you're speaking to Sam, and he can be at one level, but then you can go to different kind of levels, different portals per se.
Oh, the question's getting more confusing. Spell it out. Give me an example.
Okay, so anti-Maud is not going to be the first person you speak to. It could be a negative entity that's pretending to be anti-Maud.
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of thing.
We've had pretenders, absolutely, yes. Yeah, you definitely, you have to generally do, if it's a family member coming through, so supposedly, I would always say, look, ask multiple choice questions 2 or 3 times. What, or if they can either answer, what would the name of your second grandchild, or, I would always ask relevant questions like that. Yeah, to make sure, because absolutely, I wouldn't trust anything saying it's my family. Yeah. So, you do get people like to prank in life and they like to prank in death. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to terrorize ghost hunters when I pass over. Yeah. Give me some energy and I'm all over it.
Yeah, that is.
So, I understand. I get it.
Yeah, that's going to be really funny. That is. It's going to be like saying, the amount of paranormal investigators that get frustrated. When I die, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you guys shit. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So I can't blame them.
Yeah. So when you go to locations, do you have a particular member, or do you do it yourself, where one member will get the history of the building, so that if any names do come up, they can say, yes, they did live here, that kind of thing? Or do you try to go in blind?
I go in blind because surely having something in your head is just a recipe for disaster. Although it's debatable. I've seen people saying, who would go in knowing nothing? Surely you need to know what you're looking for. And I can see the argument in both. So I suppose it's a personal preference. I went into this. You've given a good example with the Ouija board going around, opening it up. Let's give it some energy. I've seen it done. And then being like, well, what happens if you don't do that? I want to know if spirits are like, well, that's not a thing. So you need to do both, don't you? I went into it doing protection. We did protection for years. And then this year, I went, let's not do protection. Let's just see what happens if we're not protected. Does the energy, change? Or are we getting more spiritual attachments? Let's see if it's a thing. So you've got to try. You've got to try both. And
you've raised a very good point, on protection, because when you go and you look through some of these Facebook pages, it's like, oh yeah, you must protect yourself before you go into any location. And it's right, exactly what you just said. It's sort of like, at the end of the day, if you're looking for a family member of somebody, that's still living in that family, they're not going to be, vicious and violent if they weren't in real life. They're going to be, oh, yeah, I'm glad you're here. This is what I've got to say. So, is protection really necessary? A lot of the times, probably not.
Well, I could never really, when I looked at protection, I was, okay, we'll make this sphere that we're all protected against anything attaching to us. And then we'll say, and you touch us. Well, how can you? You've just forced them out. Come into this Ouija board, what we're all touching, but you can't come through this shield, what we're all sat in. Yeah. How does that work?
That's a great point.
Are the spirits going, protection's not a thing, mate. It's just something you tell yourselves. If I want to follow you home, I'll follow you home. Yeah. I do think, if we were to get into the weeds of it, that if you believe in something enough, it does have a power that's almost palpable. If you think you're protected, it's a great mental stabilizer for afterwards when you've gone home from an investigation. Your first one, you were talking to something and it scared you. You can be like, look, I did protection. I'll be fine. And that belief enough will get you through, I think. And so that's why we used to always do it when somebody new came with us. But on the other hand, I'm like, it doesn't really make sense. But they seem to have not as much energy as us because we are, thermodynamic. We eat food to get energy. They don't eat food. So they're looking for energy from another source. Be it what we're giving off, the white light, so to speak, or batteries, things that, well, this worked, this were fully charged, and now it's not. You've heard that before. They seem to take energy. When they move around the board, not me doing circles, when I'm asking them, you move this planchette faster around the board, they perk up. Static energy. They feed off the static, I guess. So it does seem like, oh, they've got energy. Oh, no, they're out again. Have a rest. Build up some, and then I've got some more energy. It's like that. It's like in waves of they need to recharge up and then they spend it. It's all short bursts.
Yeah, and that does make perfect sense. Yeah, the fact that if they are doing what they do by energy, and I love it how some people go, if you want some energy, come and take mine. Yes. And I want to see what happens, and then that person just like,
yeah. Like, it's a dangerous thing to ask because we don't really know what we're doing, do we? We ask it without thinking, well, what happens if they take all my energy? And I've gone drowsy when I've asked somebody like Sam one time. I was getting a bit cocky and I was like, well, enter me. Come into me and take me over. I started going all dizzy. Then I thought, you know what? I retract that, get out, because I don't know. Why would I do that? Why would I allow you in? So, yeah, it's we don't really know what we're doing, but it's my only data points are what I've experienced. I love hearing other people's, but yeah. Oh, you can only investigate at night. No, I investigate through the day. It makes absolutely no difference. It's like you hear these. You do what you're told to do. You should always do this with a Ouija board, etc. And then I start to go, well, do you though? Let's see what happens if you don't do that. Much to my team's sometimes horror, they're like, what? Why do we have to draw pentagrams everywhere and open multiple Ouija boards just to see what happens? Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I'll take one for the team.
Yeah.
I love it how when you watch some of these shows or whatever, and then something happens, a noise, and they run out. Sort of like, you asked me to make a noise, I make a noise, and then you leg it. Then you get the hell out. Like, why did you ask me to make a noise in the first place if the first thing you're going to do is run away?
Yeah, it's like a fisherman being afraid of fish. Oh my God, what's this thing? I'm going home.
Yeah. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before we go, if you can tell people where they can find you and if you've got any exciting investigations coming up, please.
Yes, well, mainly, I'd like you to go to my YouTube page, Whitehouse Investigations. And if not, there's a Facebook page. You can get in touch with me personally via that. And I'm looking forward to October when we have booked all of a York pub to ourselves called the Golden Fleece, which has been done by many a team, but not by me. So yeah, we booked, there's not many rooms, but we booked it to ourselves. And hopefully, if there's anything there, we'll have a chat with it. So yeah, that's what I am looking forward to. Early next, mid-July, I'm going to a place, a YMCA, with another team on a pub as a guest myself, just a paying guest. So I'm hoping that because that's an all-nighter, 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. Hopefully, I'll come away with some stories from that. I'll probably watch them do it a certain way, and then when they've all gone to bed, crack out my own Ouija board and do it how I like to do it, Being apologetic, I know you've been asked all night to do this, but, give me an hour.
Funny you mentioned October. We're actually planning a 3-investigation, 3-night trip to the US. So that's going to be interesting so we're so looking forward to that. It's going to be great. But Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I can't wait for my colleague to see this to know how to use a Ouija board properly, because he's going to go nuts, I can guarantee it. But for now, my friend, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, and you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.